Talk about biting the hand that feeds you. Say hello to my little friend. This is the final episode of my antenna installation, and in this video you will see what VSWR I'm getting on the antenna, and it's not brilliant, but we're building an antenna tuning unit, so I'm hoping that it will cover all manner of sins. I do have a pilot's license. Unfortunately, these skills are not transferable to drones, obviously. So basically what happened was the drone backed itself into the house while I was trying to get it into follow me mode. Luckily, it hit a very smooth fly screen, so it was doing its best to destroy both of the rear rotors, and I could not for the life of me get the thing back into normal flight mode. So it's something that I'm going to have to work out before the next time I go out flying, or maybe when I'm trying to use follow me, do it in a nice open field so I can work out how you actually get the thing to work. But at any rate, any drone flyers out there are probably laughing their heads off at the incompetence. The thing was backing into the house, so I grabbed it, and of course as I've dragged it towards myself, it thinks I'm a very strong wind or something that's, trying to force it to go somewhere where it doesn't want to go, and boy did it fight me. And I've now only got one hand, and I know if I let go of it, it's either going to fly back into the house and destroy itself or go off and kill somebody else, maybe the next door neighbours. So I had to hold onto this drone, and then I thought, well, being an ex-technician, and what do technicians do when they can't get something to work? They just switch it off and on. So I tried to reach in and get the battery out, and I thought it was just giving me a tickle on the hand while I was doing that, and then I looked down after I'd gotten the battery out and had a minor heart attack, and there's blood dripping off my hand because it's literally carved me up. So those little blades spin very, very fast, and they cut you many, many times in a very short period of time. So anyone that thinks these things are toys, something to give to a child, be very careful. Hi, and welcome to The Art of Engineering, a place where art and engineering collide. Now this is part 4 of the antenna saga. We started with a ZEP antenna, the idea of building a ZEP antenna. We've ended up with an N-fed antenna that's tuned to 7 megahertz with a trap to get us up into the 80 meter band. Now, we were not expecting fantastic VSWR results with this antenna, and it certainly isn't fantastic. It is reasonable on 7 megahertz, which is nice to know. 80 meters, it's going to be a challenge to tune. So we're building an L-match, and we're going to tune it with the L-match. I will show you the VSWR, what it looks like on the Nano VNA that we have. So you'll be able to see the pattern of the response across each of the bands. So that will be an interesting thing to look at. It's very high on 80 meters, which is not that unexpected. We've got a lot of low sections that are running over metal roofs. So by no means a fantastic situation. Later on, I might put a SWID pole in the driveway and run a long wire to that as well. We'll see if that gives us better results. We may even do a ZEP antenna, so that may actually happen in the future. The next thing we're going to be doing is building an L-match and matching the antenna to the L-match. Anyway, let's disappear to the Nano VNA, and we'll have a look at what the antenna is doing. Okay, so this is what the antenna is doing from 3.5 megahertz to 29 megahertz. And if we scroll along here to the first low point, we have a 2.57 to 1, which is below 3, so that is probably going to be tunable. And that's resonating at about 6.3 megs. So that means the antenna is probably too long. The first thing I'm going to do is probably get up there and just try and shorten it a little bit. Then the only other one I'm really interested in is, well, 29 is going to be very, very high, or 28 meg is going to be very, very high. But if we go back down to 3.5 megs, VSWR is 4, so let's go to 3.6. 3.7, we have a VSWR is 3.71, so it's quite high. I need to play around with the length of the section after the trap as well. So I'm going to play around and trying to get my 80 meter SWR and my 7 meg SWR as low as possible. Now already I'm certain with an L-match I'll be able to tune on 7 megs.
the 80 meter band, I might have some issues. So we're going to go and play around with length now and see if we can improve that. But we were not expecting miracles. We have a lot of nearby metal objects, trees, etc. So as you can see here, I've left rope here for this express purpose of being able to shorten and lengthen the main length of the antenna, because I knew that adjustments would need to happen, and this is a way of, I can let some rope out this way and then I can shorten my antenna, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that shortly, just for the test purposes, and then we'll have to cut and rejoin obviously. So what I've done is I've let some rope out, and I've just cable tied this so that it's a shorter length, and we'll just go down now and test with the Nano V8A and see what bloody hay fever, and see what VSWR we've got. And now a quick word from our sponsor, which is me. I have made this shirt here, and it is a lovely little word puzzle for all people who like things geeky and engineering, and it basically says, I study engineering. Anyway, if you like the shirt, link below, support the channel, buy it on my Redbubble or my Amazon store if you're in the States. Back to the video. Okay, so after trying out those shorter lengths, I've committed to cutting the antenna shorter. I'm hoping it's not too short. And I've also, as an experiment, added an extra tag off the section after the trap, just to see whether that improves the SWR for 3.5 megs on the 80 meter band. If it doesn't, hey, I'll just get up there and go snip and it'll be done. Anyway, SWR check shortly. Now, a very interesting thing happened when I started shortening and playing around with the lengths of the antenna. I've got a lot of metal around, obviously, but even with the antenna down and sort of on the ground and on the table, the VSWR characteristics looked very, very similar to when it was in the air, which kind of makes me wonder whether the when it's looking into that at this end, whether that is kind of having more of an effect than the actual wire in the air. So it's behaved very, very strangely, and it's got me wondering how effective an antenna this is going to be. But at any rate, the proof will be in the pudding, getting it in the sky. There's a bloody fly flying around in here. Getting it in the sky, finding out whether it picks up any signals at all. But I've cut it shorter. I'll show you quickly what it looked like. It doesn't look very much different. That's the thing that I noticed, was even changing the length quite radically. I took out quite a bit. It only came down a very fraction of an improvement within the 7 megs, but it's resonant at 7 megahertz. Reasonably okay, not perfect. And I think I'll be able to tune it for 3.8 as well. How much actual power gets up the spout and off the antenna, God only knows. We will keep praying to the gods of antenna. We will also finish the matching unit, the L-match, which will be a separate video. So I think what we need to understand about this whole antenna business is, ideally you don't have nearby metal objects. Ideally you're a quarter wavelength or higher above the ground. All of these ideals that are very, very rarely achievable. So really a lot of the time it's about suck it and see. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're sucking it, and we're going to see whether the antenna sucks or it's really good. I'm thinking that it's going to be reasonable, and I think that that's the thing that I've discovered in the past when I've thrown a wire up. I had a G5RV at my old location. It was less than ideal at one end. It was sort of run over a metal roof at one end, and I still made lots of contacts on that antenna. A few in Europe, not that many to the States, probably because of the orientation of it, but made lots of contacts in Asia, lots of Japanese stations. So it was quite an effective antenna. That's enough of me blabbing on. We'll get to the VNA, and we'll have a final look at, after cutting and adjusting and everything else, what it's actually looking like. Okay, we've been on the roof about 100 times. I've fiddled around with putting a counterpoise in, taking a counterpoise out, etc, etc. The counterpoise actually did improve the SWR on the 3.5 mix. I'm just going to show you what it looks like in a scan from 3 megs to 29 megs. And as you can see here, on the 3 megs, we'll just go up to 3 megs. At 3 megs, we have a nearly 4.5 SWR, which is terrible. When you get up to, it's starting to come down as you head up into 3.5. So at 3.520, we've got a 3.7 to 1. Not ideal. I should be able to tune that with the L-Match antenna tuner that I'm building, and I've always known that we were going to be compromising quite severely for 3.5 megs. The other transmitter that I'm going to be using will be on 7. And as we head towards 7, the SWR is going down, behaving itself reasonably well. When we get down to, it's not the best resonant point, but there's so much stuff around metal and whatnot that it's not as simple as just cutting it to the length that you would expect. So at 7.160, which is roughly where I want to be, I've got a 2.5 to 1 SWR, which is tunable with the L-Match, and it's not disgraceful. I wouldn't want to be transmitting straight into it, but we've always known this antenna was going to be a bigger compromise. As for 28 megs, you can almost forget about that. The next dip that happens is at 14, as luck would have it. It was 3.2 to 1, so I should be able to tune it on the 14 megahertz 20 meter band, which is always good for DX. And then the next dip, there's a little dip here at 20 megs, and then the next big dip happens at 21, around 21. So at around 21, it's 3.7. Once again, not fantastic SWRs, but tunable. Now 29, I think is, or 28 megs, 10 meter band is almost a write-off. I think it's 5 SWR. I don't think I'm going to be able to tune that, and even if I can, it's not going to be a very good antenna. So luckily at those higher frequencies, we're looking at smaller antennas because we have a shorter wavelength. So I will be probably building another antenna. I'm going to run another piece of coax outside in preparation for that, and I think I'll probably try and do a vertical antenna for the 28 meter band, because at quarter wavelength, 10 meters, the half wavelength is 5, so it's only 2.5 meters high, the actual antenna, if I go for a quarter wavelength 30 Hertzian vertical. So I can play around with putting that probably on top of the post the antenna's on, and then I get 2 for the price of 1 out of that post. So that very well may be the next project I do. It will be, well, the next project is going to be the antenna tuner. But there you have it, the end of the antenna saga. I do have an antenna that I think will be useful once I get that antenna tuner fixed up, and once I finish that antenna tuner, I will do a nano VNA analysis like this one to show you whether I get a more acceptable VSWR out of this antenna. So as you can see in my videos, I've got a small block, lots of trees, lots of metal around, and if I can get anything to happen, it'll be a win in my opinion.